Hello everyone. Today my topic is the Bay of Bengal Maritime Delimitation case. I will introduce the background, the jurisdiction, the dispute and settlement, and the conclusion of this case. First of all, the background. The first maritime delimitation case tried by the ITLOS is this case, and it is the first time for international judicial bodies to divide the continental shelf beyond 200 nautical miles of the parties. In this case, the tribunal holds the view that it should use the rule of equidistance line and related factors, which means the delimitation is mainly based on the equidistance line, but other relevant factors are also considered. The two parties in this case is Bangladesh and the Myanmar. The Bangladesh is located in the north and northeast of the Bengal, and the Myanmar is on the east bank of the Bay of the Bengal. There is a dispute between the two countries over the Bay of Bengal 87 block, about here, and the Bangladesh holds the view that 87 block is within its territorial sea. Myanmar holds the view that 87 block is located in its exclusive economic zone. With the discovery of a large number of oil and gas resources in the disputed area, the disputes became more and more serious. This case was accepted by the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea in December 2009, and then on March 14, 2012, the tribunal made a final decision. The second part is the jurisdiction of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea. The Annex 6 of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea is the statute of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, and according to its Article 21, the tribunal has jurisdiction over the following cases. These three cases belong to its jurisdiction. Meanwhile, the choice of a specific path to resolve a dispute requires the agreement of the two parties. So, in October 2009, Bangladesh submitted the maritime dispute with Myanmar to the arbitration tribunal specified in Annex 7 of the Convention for arbitration. But Myanmar proposed to settle the dispute through the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, and Bangladesh agreed to the proposal. On the issue of jurisdiction, both countries are parties to the Convention and have not excluded the jurisdiction of maritime delimitation. Therefore, the court officially accepted the case in December 2009. According to the court, based on the agreement between the two parties, the jurisdiction of the court is to delimit the territorial sea, the exclusive economic zone, and the sea area on the continental shelf. And the third part is the disputes and settlement. In this chapter, it includes the delimitation of three parts: the territorial sea, the exclusive economic zone, and the continental shelf within 200 nautical miles, and the continental shelf beyond 200 nautical miles. And the last part is the proportionality test. In the first part, the delimitation of territorial sea, the first question is that whether there is a territorial sea delimitation agreement between the two countries. Bangladesh insisted that the territorial sea delimitation was first agreed by the two sides in the minutes of 1974 meeting and confirmed in the minutes of the 2008 meeting. But there are 3 reasons that the 2 minutes of the meeting were not valid agreement. For example, Myanmar's representatives who signed the minutes of the meeting did not have the power to conclude treaties on behalf of the state, as stipulated in Article 7, Paragraph 1 of the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties. So, according to the Article 15 of the Convention, the court needs to consider whether there are historical rights or other special circumstances that make the equidistance line incapable. Whether the island of Saint Martin belonging to the Bangladesh constitutes a special situation and needs to exclude the application of the equidistance line is the biggest problem. So let's learn some information about the Saint Martin Island. This island covers an area of about 8 square kilometers, has about 7,000 permanent residents, and is an important base for the Bangladesh Navy and Coast Guard. It is within 12 nautical miles of Bangladesh's territorial sea line, and the distance between the island and Bangladesh and Myanmar is almost the same, both of which are about 6.5 nautical miles. The court should give full effect to the island in the delimitation of territorial sea, so this island has 12 nautical miles of territorial sea itself. Therefore, it does not constitute a special case for which the principle of equidistance line is not applicable. And subsequently, the court applied the 15th article of the Convention, dividing the territorial waters of the 2 countries by the equidistance line. The specific method is here, and according to my report, you can see some other things in this part. So let's move on. About the delimitation of the exclusive economic zone and the continental shelf within 200 nautical miles. Both countries requested the court to make a single delimitation. There is no dispute between the 2 countries on the law applicable to the continental shelf and the exclusive economic zone. It is the Article 74 and 83 of the Convention, the rules of customary law, and the international judicial decisions. But there are disputes between the 2 countries on which delimitation method should be applied. So the tribunal insisted that the rule of the equidistance line. Myanmar agrees, while Bangladesh believes that it will result in unfair results. Bangladesh pointed out that Bangladesh is located in the north of the Bay of Bengal, and the coast of Bangladesh is concave inward. We can see in this picture that the shape of it is like this. So, if the equidistance line is used to delimit the boundary between Bangladesh and its neighboring countries, the 2 equidistance lines from Myanmar and India will meet at a place like this. And this is less than 200 nautical miles of the coast of Bangladesh, which will have a cutting effect on this country. However, in the court's view, in most submissions before international courts, the equidistance line and relevant factors rule has proved to be an appropriate delimitation method, and this method can not only restrain the subjectivity of delimitation, but also meets the flexibility necessary for specific situations. So the court followed 3 steps to delimit the boundary. In first stage, the court chose the appropriate base point to build the temporary middle line. In the second phase, the tribunal reviewed the relevant factors of the temporary middle line that may need to be adjusted or changed. In the third stage, the tribunal adjusted the temporary line and conducted a proportionality test. The third part is the delimitation of the continental shelf beyond 200 nautical miles. About the jurisdiction, at one time, Myanmar disputed whether the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea had jurisdiction over the continental shelf beyond 200 nautical miles, but later it withdrew. The tribunal noted that since the delimitation of the continental shelf under Article 83 of the Convention does not distinguish between within 200 nautical miles or beyond, it has the right to delimit the entire continental shelf accordingly. And about the principle of delimitation, in the view of the tribunal, Article 83 of the Convention does not distinguish two, so the law applicable to the continental shelf beyond 200 nautical miles is also the Article 83 of the Convention. Accordingly, the tribunal decided that the equidistance line related factors rule should continue to apply in the delimitation of the continental shelf beyond 200 nautical miles. The special situation in this case is the gray area. This area is beyond 200 nautical miles of the coast of Bangladesh, but within 200 nautical miles of coast of Myanmar. On the Bangladesh side, and here is this part. We can see that Bangladesh 200 nautical miles line is here, and Myanmar's line is here. So this part is the gray part. Although it is Myanmar's exclusive economic zone, it is divided into the continental shelf of Bangladesh. The tribunal recommends that the states parties adopt further agreement to solve the problem. The gray area indicates that the boundary between the exclusive economic zone and the continental shelf may not be a single boundary under special geographical conditions. The last part is the proportionality test. The final step is to test whether the delimitation results conform to the proportion. According to the delimitation results, here is the data. As a result, the tribunal found that the result of the delimitation did not lead to a clear disproportion, which was in line with the principle of fairness. So let's come to the conclusion. As the first maritime delimitation case tried by the ITLOS, the Bay of Bengal judgment not only realizes the fair settlement of the case, but also makes corresponding contribution to enhance the certainty and the predictability of the delimitation legal rules. That's all. Thank you for listening.